Hello, I'm Professor Henning,
And I'm Professor Roschke.
and we're here to demonstrate the microscope, the parts of the microscope, and basic use of the microscope. Initially, taking the microscope out probably is one of the most important things because that's when it's most likely to get damaged. So open the cabinet and carefully pick it out with two hands and set it on the bench top. And again, be careful to clear the lenses, the objective lenses or the ocular lenses as you take the microscope out. Take off the dust cover and put it out of the way. Sometimes the sink, if we're not using water, is a good place to place that out of the way. And then take the cord off of the holder and plug the microscope in, and we're ready to start using the microscope.
What we see from this side view is the basic structure of the microscope. We have the body of the scope down here weighted heavily, a platform or a base also weighted very heavily, and the rest of the important microscope parts then are hanging off of this body. So what we have then is a light source at the base. We'll show you in a minute how to turn that on and off. We have a stage here on which the slide will go. We have a series of ground glass lenses. Some of those are going to be found in the end of these tubes that you see here, which we call objectives, and some lenses which are up in the oculars.
So we'll start by turning the light on the microscope. So we start by pressing the on-off switch in the on position, and then we can adjust the amount of light that comes through the microscope two ways. One is through this rheostat that adjusts the amount of power, therefore the amount of light coming through the stage, and also the iris diaphragm that works like the iris in your eye that adjusts the size of the opening and the amount of light coming through the stage.
So you've just seen how to turn the microscope on and how to adjust the light involved, but let's just take a quick look in terms of where that light goes. The light source is here. The light comes up through the iris diaphragm, which sits below in the sensor, comes up through this orifice, this hole on the stage itself, and in turn is going to pass through one of these objectives. That in turn is mirrored off of those objectives and runs out through what we call the oculars. Let's just take a quick look at the oculars themselves. Notice there are two. It's a binocular microscope, meaning you're going to use both eyes, and sometimes it takes a while to learn how to do that. But every individual in turn has a pupillary distance, which is the measurable distance between their two pupils. And each individual then can in turn adapt the microscope to fit their pupillary distance, and that's done very easily by grabbing the base of the oculars and moving them out or moving them in. So each partner using the microscope may have to make that modification. It doesn't focus at all. Many of the scopes also have a rubber lip around each ocular. Depending upon the individual, you may prefer to have that rubber lip out on both oculars, obviously, or you may prefer to have that down like this. It's a matter of preference to a large extent.
The four objectives that we have on our Olympus scopes, you always want to start with the scanning objective, which has a red rim around it. So we start with scanning, and then we go to the low objective, the high objective, and in some cases, when we need more magnification, especially in microbiology, we'll use the oil immersion objective. But we like to start with the scanning objective. Placing the slide on the stage, first of all, we like to clean the slide. That always helps in viewing if you have a clean slide. We always try to use a paper that's appropriate. In this case, we're using chem wipes or lens paper to clean the slide, and then carefully place the slide on the stage, and by pulling back the spring-loaded holder on the mechanical stage, and then slowly allowing it to snug the slide in the proper place. And now we're going to be able to move using these two knobs. We can move the slide vertically or horizontally. Using those adjustments, we can properly move the slide.
With the slide now placed on the stage, which you have centered as best you can using your eyes, in turn now, and your lighting controlled, we're going to try to focus. There are two knobs here, a larger inner knob and a much smaller outer knob. The inner knob is what we call coarse focus. The outer knob is what we refer to as fine focus. The coarse focus will move the stage up and down rather significantly with each turn. The fine focus, in turn, moves rather slowly, and there is minimal kind of movement of the stage. With the scan objective in place, and which magnifies 4 times, we're going to take the coarse focus knob and gently move it up and down. Remember always to start with the stage as close to the objective as we can. There is a space between the objective and the slide, which we call the working distance, and that's about 3/4 of an inch at this point. Focus as best you can. When that in turn is in place, simply move the turret which holds the objectives, go to the next highest objective, which in this case is low power. It magnifies 10 times, and again you may wish to do some minor movement of the slide back and forth, up and down. In turn, still use this coarse focus then to get even better clarity on the slide.
With the slide now in focus on the low objective, we finally, in most cases, want to go to the high objective. And at this point, these microscopes are referred to as parfocal, meaning once they're in focus with one objective, they will be in focus, relatively good focus, in all the objectives. So at this point, we don't need to move the stage, and we need to rotate the objective, and so now it falls into proper place. And at this point, we only want to use the fine focus. So minor adjustments with the fine focus now will give us high magnification, and we've got it clearly focused, only using the fine focus knob.
The slide on the microscope now is under high power. The working distance between the objective and the slide is very slight. So we heard before that the only focusing we're going to use now is the fine focus. But there may be occasions where what we're looking at on the slide is exceptionally small, and we need to even increase magnification. And in that case, we would use what's referred to as the oil immersion objective. And it says oil right on it, so you know that that's the correct one. To properly do that, we know we're in focus under high power. We move the high power objective halfway out of the way. We in turn take a drop of oil, which is designed especially for this purpose, and place a drop correctly and directly over the top of the slide where we can see the light coming through. And then slowly we move the oil objective into place. Creates a column of oil between the slide and the objective. And the reason for doing this is that at that high a magnification of 1,000 times, light becomes a difficult thing. So to get the proper amount of light coming through this slide, we need to increase it by not losing as much light being reflected off. So we're trying to channel light as best we can to keep a concentrated column of light coming up through that stage and through that slide and into that objective. Again, on oil, we can only use fine focus for adjustment. If you've been using the oil objective and we still have oil then on the objective and on the slide and you're done, the best way to deal with this is to simply move the oil objective off to the side again, being careful you don't pull the high objective down and getting oil on that. Remove the slide, but now we must remove the oil off of that objective. Swing that oil objective around toward the front, take a Kim wipe again, and thoroughly wipe the bottom of the objective to make sure all of that oil is removed.
At this point, we've completed the project and the work with the microscope for the day, so now we want to put it away. And first of all, we turn the power off. We unplug the microscope. And it's very important to always lower the stage to its lowest point and also return the objectives to the scanning objectives. So we have the shortest objective and the stage completely down, so there's never a chance of damaging the objective lenses. And at this point then we would just wrap the cord to make sure, again, it's not going to be in the way. And then finally, after the cord has been wrapped around in place, that we put the dust cover back on the microscope. And then once again, this is, you're ready to head out of here, but you need to take your time to make sure that you open the cabinet. Again, using 2 hands, just slowly put it in place, and again, be careful not to bump the ocular lenses when you're putting it back in the cabinet.